Students in developing countries may have unequal access to information technology compared to students in more developed countries. So, the poorer countries versus the richer countries, students typically tend to have more access to IT, to computer science, to resources that they need. For example, in a really poor country, maybe they don't even teach IT skills, they teach the basic math and English because the school can't afford to buy stuff. Whereas here in the UK, the government issues money to schools specifically for IT resources. So here in the UK, I can almost guarantee that every single secondary school, primary school, maybe college has dozens, sometimes hundreds of computers just for students to use, right? Um, Cheyenne runs a charity that supports these students. Unequal access may be due to a lack of communication networks, up to date technology, educational resources. Unequal access to technology, to IT, can have immediate and long term impacts on these students. Discuss the immediate and long term impacts that unequal access to information technology has on students in developing countries. So, in the poorer countries, how does not having the technology that they need to learn going to affect them short term and long term? So, here are some of the points that we can touch on. The first one is going to be education. So, limited access to up to date materials may mean that students are disadvantaged in terms of the quality and accuracy of their knowledge, which means that if your school has older IT systems, let's say Windows, I don't know, well, you guys probably won't know Windows XP or Windows 2000, which I know that stuff. If that's what your school is stuck on, you won't know how to do the most recent things. You won't know how the new technology works. So your knowledge is going to be out of date and not very accurate. Lack of IT infrastructure may limit the choice of educational courses that they can follow. Here in the UK, people can choose so many branches of IT. Right? I've always said, I mean, I might be wrong, but I've said to many people that IT or information technology has more branches within it than medicine has. You can be a computer scientist, you can be an electronic engineer, you can be a typical IT person, and even in just a typical IT person, you have networking, you have databases. There's so many branches, but if you don't have the infrastructure to actually teach that stuff, the resources to teach it or the resources to learn it for the students, you can't do it. Next, we have employment may not be able to develop desired skills, such as technical skills or programming skills, which could lead to better paid jobs. Yes, if you know how to program in, let's say, Python, C, C++, Java, some of the biggest languages in the world, you're going to be in a position to get a better paying job. For example, me knowing how to program has allowed me to secure jobs in the past. Lack of infrastructure may mean they cannot access specific technologies that allow them to apply for employment or to be able to subscribe to working styles, remote working, for example. Here in the UK, remote working was so easy for most people because most of us have internet, most of us have access to the internet, sorry. Most of us have a smart device or multiple smart devices. So it was easy for us to simply stay at home, turn our laptops on, and work from home. Lack of access to information may restrict them from the application process or mean they are not aware of potential jobs. Everything in the UK now, when I was a teenager, I used to actually go into shops with my CV and say, "Oh, do you guys have a job?" And I might leave my CV in certain places. Um, Not much long after that, or even now, still, whenever you go to a shop or a business place, ask for a job, they always say to you, send us an email or apply online. If you don't have access to a smart device, if you don't have access to the internet, how can you possibly do this, right? Next, we have financial. A lack of public infrastructure may mean that access to internet and other technologies is restricted to those that can afford expensive mobile technology. So, in certain countries, for example, I'm from Jamaica, right? And broadband there is pretty good. 4G is actually really good. I was surprised when I went back a few years ago how much faster than the UK's broadband I was getting there, right? So if there's no public infrastructure for this in certain places, then you just won't have access to any of the things you need and you won't have access to applying for jobs, nothing. If there's no money, you can't get this stuff, right? And an inability for an area to support high-speed online services may mean that the economy of that area suffers as they cannot compete with other countries in a global market. Yes, Jamaica is a much smaller country than the UK. We only have like 3 million people, whereas the UK has 60 plus million, so 30 times larger. However, we can compete because luckily we're one of those developing countries that actually has resources to put into certain things like this. But other small Caribbean countries, other small African countries, Asian countries, South American countries, they might not be able to compete because the money isn't there to make sure that things are in place to try and compete. So, for let me just say, country A versus the UK. The UK has all the resources in the world to train people, to buy resources, to do everything. So, country A might be disadvantaged if they apply for a job in a different country versus someone from the UK who most likely would have had contact with that technology at some point. Most people graduating secondary school, sixth form, college, university would have had to interact with a Windows PC at some point, know how to use Word, know how to use Excel, PowerPoint, Google Chrome. And last, I think it's the last one, we have access to technology. Making use of older computers and potentially slower wireless infrastructures may mean digital services and products developed in these countries cannot compete in terms of performance with other services available on the internet. The hardware and software available to individuals cannot adequately make use of common services. That's the last one. Yeah. So, what this means, digital services and products developed in these countries cannot compete in terms of performance. Dial up connection, which is in America, I'm just going to use America as the example here, is if memory serves me right, 56 kilobits or kilobytes, I think it's kilobits per second. Whereas my mobile phone, when I'm in London, gives me 5G. When I'm in central London, gives me 5G. I can get easily over 100 megabits per second, right? So, massive disadvantage there. The hardware and software available to individuals cannot adequately make use of the common services. So, if your internet is very slow, or you don't have access to the technology you need, if you don't have a laptop, a tablet, a PC, a mobile phone, a smart TV, you cannot physically get access to the internet to do the things you need to do. The internet might be there, right? You might have internet at school, but if you yourself don't have a smart device and the school does not have enough smart devices to go around, then you don't have access to it, right? So that's typically what this means. Hopefully, these answers made sense to you. Hopefully, I wasn't going too fast. Yeah, I don't need to read anything from here. No, that's fine. So, this is my most likely going to be my last video for Unit 1, unless I get messages from people asking specific questions. And the questions I do really like going over are the draw questions or draw this, draw that, because I think students typically tend to skip over that one because they don't fully understand it. So, if anyone has any questions, um, message in this video or other videos, and I'll try my very best to try and answer them. Thank you. Bye bye. Good luck.